I have lived in Ohio for the last 21 years, so hating Michigan is a part of who I am. It's hard to explain this hatred to people who don't live in one of the two states because it's both an ongoing joke, but also, an Ohio State fan would rather talk about politics with their in-laws than look at a Michigan fan. And if their politically incorrect in-laws became Michigan fans, I'm afraid your frail bodies and puny brains are too innocent to comprehend the sheer graphic violence that would occur. I've never been to Michigan. I'd rather die. But I've been to Indiana a lot, and it's worse than death. Although hating Michigan is in my blood, hating Indiana is in my bones. I'm just glad it got out of my urinary tract. I think Ohioans should hate Indiana far more than Michigan. We hate Michigan because of some war that was fought 200 years ago. A war that was literally less deadly than a single Ohio State-Michigan football game. Indiana is hurting Ohio right now. Ohio's reputation, to be specific. When people outside of the Midwest think about Ohio and Indiana, they assume the two states are basically the same. Two flyover states with corn and not much else. And I hate that because while that is the case for Indiana, Ohio has so much more to offer. My goal is to permanently rip the thought out of the human brain that Ohio and Indiana deserve to even be in the same conversation. How am I gonna do that? Probably with data? Yes, both states are overrun with farmland, but the conversation is much more nuanced. Ohio is 14% larger than Indiana. And while 55.4% of Indiana is taken up by farmland, Ohio's farmland only accounts for 41.4% of all land. And for the record, we don't waste all this land by letting nature breathe. No, we take advantage of it. Multiple big cities, tons of sports stadiums, 21 pilots, art and entertainment venues all across the state, amusement parks, and so much more. Other things happen in these states besides farming. Like crime. Ohio has a lower violent crime rate, which is insane because we have more major cities and I live there. Our billboards say you're going to hell, and their billboards say Uranus. Hence why they're going to hell. We're home of LeBron James, who hangs 30 points on every team in the NBA. They're home of Mike Pence, who on January 6th everyone tried to hang. Our governor looks like a minion. Alright, I could keep listing credible facts, but it wouldn't matter. Because I'm weak. I can't take down a whole state with my spite. Or guns. Even though I really want to, I can't destroy an entire state.
But what about a small town?
In 1812, Ohio founded the great city of Columbus. What an original name, right? In 1821, Indiana founded a town and named it Columbus. Indiana would rather be any other state. Who blames them? They want to be Ohio so bad that even when we make the mistake of naming a city after the piece of human garbage that was Christopher Columbus, a man who never even stepped foot in Ohio, who never even ate at a Skyline Chili's, they see our mistake and think, hey, that's a good idea. At least we Ohioans think for ourselves, even if we are dumb as bricks. Indiana has always been a step behind Ohio. Ohio was founded 13 years before them. Ohio State football always beats up on Indiana football. We produce presidents. They produce vice presidents. The existence of Columbus, Indiana is offensive. But the existence of a smaller, lamer version of Columbus, Ohio makes sense because that's what Indiana is in comparison to Ohio. We are going to learn everything we can about the two cities. And by doing that, I believe we'll prove that Columbus, Ohio is so much better than Columbus, Indiana, that Columbus, Indiana ought to be involuntarily disincorporated. By whatever method possible. My first interviewee is Elijah. He is a lifelong Ohio native, a former OSU student. He's lived in Columbus for over 3 years, and he's my future best man. Please enjoy our discussion.
I was in Chicago this past weekend, and I was on the train with somebody from Illinois, and I said how Indiana is the worst state in the country. And they said, you do realize Ohio and Indiana are exactly the same. And I have never been more greatly offended in my entire life. I don't think people understand that Indiana and Ohio aren't even in the same, like, they can't even be mentioned in the same sentence without you just sounding like a fool.
I did not tell him to say that. Of course, that is a tragic story. but I am all for tragedy that helps me push a narrative. I think Elijah provides a very interesting perspective on life in Ohio.
Well, I think Ohio is like probably the most misunderstood state in the entire country. I think Ohioans are different than the rest of the Midwest. I think Ohio is the most southern of the Midwestern states, not geographically, like personality wise. I think Ohio is like closer to Tennessee than we are like Illinois in terms of like personality, or like Iowa. I think that we have like the southern charm aspect, but then we've got like the amenities of a northeastern city. Honestly, like there's nothing better than Ohio.
Thinking now, like Columbus specifically, like what do you think makes Columbus such a good city to live in?
If Ohio is the most misunderstood state in the country, Columbus is the most misunderstood city in the country. If you ask anybody in the entire United States what they think of Columbus, they're going to say Ohio State. Even though Columbus is the 13th largest city in America, bigger than San Francisco, bigger than Las Vegas. This year, we hosted the USA Nationals fencing tournament, the largest gathering of fencers in the world. I went. I have a t-shirt right over there.
Fencing. The fencing comment is an oddly specific one, but I think it shows that things are happening in Columbus. I don't think a lot of people realize how big Columbus is. When people assume that Ohio is boring, I think they're thinking about the rural, suburban Ohio life, and there's some valid points there, but again, Ohio has several major cities. And yeah, Columbus is no Chicago or New York, but with every major city, you're gonna find plenty of things to do. One counter-argument you'll often hear is that it's unfair to compare Columbus, Ohio to Columbus, Indiana, because Columbus, Ohio has a 9-year head start, and they're a state capital, and Columbus, Indiana isn't. And honestly, I've never really known how to respond to this claim. It stumped me. That is until I got to talk to Elijah.
You were asking for the comparison. And also, if they wanted to be the capital of Indiana, maybe they should just like try harder.
Yeah.
Just be better.
Jeez.
It's just disgusting. Revolting.
Wow. I mean, that's why he's in law school and I'm majoring in communications. Then I asked Elijah, if we had to rename Columbus, Ohio after a different piece of human garbage, one that was actually from Ohio, who should it be?
I don't know. The problem is like there's not usually like, or really there's no bad people from Ohio. So we're kind of like running out of like of people to choose from.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even like Cincinnati has the name Sin in it twice, but like name one crime that happens in Cincinnati. Loving too much? What are some things that Columbus, Indiana would need to do to like make it better than Columbus, Ohio?
Well, I think destroying Columbus, Ohio would be a good start.
Okay.
That's actually all they would have to do.
Thank you, Elijah, for being willing to talk to me. I texted another one of my friends who I knew recently moved to Columbus to ask them what their favorite parts of the city were. And it turns out that after living there for a week, they got a slightly better job offer in Nebraska and decided they'd rather live there. All scientists agree that it's okay to get rid of some of your data during research, so forget that ever happened. It's important in politics to be willing to talk to people on both sides of the aisle. I think that's something people refuse to do nowadays. With that being said, I refuse to interview anyone from Columbus, Indiana, because they're all liars and I know it. Which means if I want to continue my research, I have one option. Visit Columbus, Indiana for myself. I'm gonna leave Ohio and spend the night in Columbus, Indiana. Wish me luck. Have you been enjoying this video? Is the premise fun and silly? Of course it is. I'm a genius. I hand-baked this stupid false narrative, and you scarfed it down without a sip of water. Just like I knew you would. The only reason the first part of this video exists is so I could have an excuse to leave Ohio. I thought that leaving Ohio for a YouTube video would be better than leaving Ohio, 'cause I hate it here. I was so excited about the idea of leaving Ohio for a day that I made this whole video. Don't get me wrong, Ohio's fine, but I've been here for 21 years, and the human body is not meant to withstand 21 years of this. I'm gonna visit Columbus, Indiana, not to prove that it sucks, but 'cause I wanna leave. in the corner. I noticed that while pooping. I'm quite the observant one when pooping. I went to Columbus, realized it's just Ohio, and then realized I don't hate Ohio. I hate me. It's been 2 months since I filmed anything, and between then and now, I've just been living life, thinking about why I felt so downcast over the summer, and trying to find ways to articulate it. And I still don't know if I can, but to start off, rural Ohio is a fine place to live. It can be a little boring. It's a simple life. But a simple life is a lucky one. However, over the summer, which is when I filmed this video, I felt very disconnected from the human experience. For me, the key part of the human experience revolves around the relationships you have with other people, with how connected you are with those around you. And this summer, I felt isolated in a way I never have before. And I think part of it was that some of my friends were gone over summer break, but I was still doing a good job of going out and talking to people and hanging out with friends. Because one thing I've learned about myself over the last year or two is that I need human connection like water. In a video I made like half a year ago, I talked about how I have a tendency to isolate myself while creating art, and how that was a problem for me. And I'm happy to say that's something I've worked on. I really don't do that anymore. But I hope this makes sense. Just because I talk to people doesn't mean I'm connecting with anyone. I talk to plenty of coworkers, strangers, friends. But when I would talk to them, I would never listen. Okay, I think I need to backtrack a little more. This summer was the first time life has ever slowed down for me. I'm currently a senior in college, so I've had plenty of summer breaks, but I think this is the first one I've had as an adult where I really haven't had much going on other than waking up and going to work. I enjoy my job, but it's a pretty chill 9-to-5 desk job. There just wasn't much to do. Life was boring. I was in the same town for the 21st year in a row, so nothing new was happening. I didn't feel like I was gaining any new experiences. And so after a week of just basically being bored, my mind went on cruise control. I already tend to spend a lot of time just in my own head, thinking of either something or nothing. But I was spending days, weeks just zoning out, essentially waiting for the clock to hit midnight so I could go to sleep. Everything I did, whether it was work, cooking, driving, my body was there, but my mind was elsewhere. I have this whole fictional life in my head, and so I spend a lot of time just coming up with scenarios. So that's an example of what I do while zoning out. And it's one thing to zone out while doing chores. It's another thing to zone out while talking to people. Maybe it's a talent, I don't know, but I can spend entire conversations without comprehending anything the other person is saying. My body just naturally knows how to respond to whatever they're saying. I would talk to people, but I treated those conversations like a part of my routine. Like one of the things I had to get through before I could just go to bed. It's one of the reasons why I can't remember anyone's names. Because when I meet someone, my instinct is to ask them what their name is, and then they tell me, but I'm not actually listening to them, so I never remember what their name is. I don't remember anyone's names. And so I felt isolated in a way I hadn't before. I felt empty. Because it's human connection that fills me up. And even though I was having conversations with people, I was still blocking them out. And I didn't realize I was doing this. And maybe it's not exactly what I was doing, but I don't know how else to explain why I felt so lonely, even though I was talking to so many people. I remember every conversation I had in Columbus. The barista at the coffee shop, the intern at the local history museum. But I don't think I remember any conversation between middle of June and early August. And I think part of that is just daily life. Of course, I remember a vacation a lot more than just some random month out of the year. But I was feeling this emptiness, and I was blaming Ohio. And so I really just wanted a reason to get out of here. I had just made a little bit of money off a freelance video, and I decided I was gonna go travel for a day. You know, I can't afford to go on vacation for a week, but I can visit a random small town for a day. And I love small towns. I made a whole video a year ago where I basically just gush over my love for small towns. I was researching small cities near me, and Columbus, Indiana popped up, and it looked interesting enough, so I booked the trip. I took this trip for me. I thought I wanted to take this trip to leave Ohio, but really I took this trip so I could go out and talk to new people and gain some new experiences. And what I wish I did was take this trip to Columbus, Indiana, and just work on other videos. But instead, what I did is what I felt like I had to do, and that was turn this trip into a video. 2 reasons. Number 1, I think the content creator brain that I have, just the second I'm gonna do something fun, I'm like, oh, I should record that. I should make this a video. Other people say that to me all the time. We do something fun, and they're like, you should make this a video. And the other thing is that I don't see myself as a content creator. I view myself as an artist. And as an artist, I have this desire to turn my pain into art. My original plan for this video was to make a hit piece on Columbus, Indiana as a joke, while also tying in these themes of loneliness and isolation and trying to figure out what it is about Ohio that I hate so much. Tie all that into one cohesive, beautiful piece of art. And that is exhausting. I've spent the last 2 months trying to figure out how to do it, and I just hate it. It takes too much effort. And what I've realized is that I don't want to turn my life experiences into content. Because at the end of the day, this is my life. These are my experiences. And those mean so much more to me than a video. I filmed hours worth of content while in Columbus, Indiana. And of course, it's the moments that I wasn't filming that I remember. And I don't want this rant to be like put your phone down. I've realized that I don't want to, and I don't enjoy turning my life experiences into content. I would much rather gain life experiences, let those experiences impact who I am as a person, and then as Payton the person changes and gains new experiences, that will then influence the type of art and the type of videos I want to make. So me breaking the fourth wall here is just a way for me to push back against these 2 ideologies that have followed me the last year especially. But I do want to share one interaction I had in Columbus, Indiana, because I think about it every day. Columbus, Indiana is awesome. It's a great city. It's much bigger than I was expecting. I had a great time walking around, exploring these random museums, talking to strangers, meeting people. That night, I went to the hotel bar because I was tired from walking around for 12 hours, but I was only spending 1 night in Columbus, Indiana, so I still wanted to go out and do something. And let's face it, a hotel bar in Columbus, Indiana on a Thursday night is not exactly poppin'. For the most part, I was just there alone chatting with the bartender. But right before the bar closed, this short man wearing business casual attire walked in. He orders a Jack and Coke and a light beer, and within 2 minutes of chatting with the bartender, they are talking about how their parents died. All 4 of their parents were dead. It was really the man who started this conversation, and I think the 2 people had met once or twice before. I'm not exactly sure, but either way, I just kept thinking, holy cow, this guy is an open book. This guy seeks conversation. This guy wants to get to know you. I feel like I don't actually know that many people. I kept thinking, man, this guy is fully engaged in life. I want to be like him. And then 30 seconds later, he turned around and dropped a truth bomb on me. The first thing he ever told me was that his brother just had a kid at 52. 52. He kept repeating, what was he thinking? What was he thinking? And I responded, well, I know what he was thinking. No, I wish. I just said, I don't know, man. Maybe the people around me need to be more interesting. I bet if there was always this crazy drama going on, I'd be a lot more engaged. What I've learned from this video is that I'm going to stop blaming Ohio for my problems and start blaming the people around me. We chatted for a couple more minutes. I went ahead, paid my bill. And as I went up to leave, he turned to me again, raised his Jack and Coke, and said, remember, kid, always pay it forward. And I responded, huh? And he said, always pay it forward, like from the movie. And then I walked out. I think there's a movie from 20 years ago called Pay It Forward. I think it's funny that he assumed I would know that movie. But honestly, now I'm kind of pissed off because I feel like if he actually meant what he said, he would have paid my bill. Actions speak louder than words, buddy. Shout out Columbus, Indiana. Shout out to this attempt of a video. All of my recent videos have had some level of self-reflection, which I like, But I think I need to allow myself to make a video just for fun. I have this desire to make these super complex videos about the human condition. But at the end of the day, I'm just a stupid 21-year-old who wants to party. If I'm being honest with you. The main reason this video has taken so long is because I've just been out enjoying life recently. The beauty of this video taking 3 months to make is that I am a different person now than I was at the start of filming. I'm happier. I don't relate to the feelings I was talking about earlier. I've grown. And also, college has started up again, so more people are around, and there's more happening. I'm not as bored. You know, I've done better, and just the circumstances around me have gotten more interesting. I still spend a lot of the time in my own head, but I don't know, I feel like right now I have friends who I really love, and who I really know, and who really know me. I don't relate to the person who spent every day zoning out, desperately wanting to leave Ohio. I'm actually about to leave for my school's fall break. Me and 6 of my friends are going to go down to West Virginia and just hang out for 72 hours, hiking and talking. I'm really excited. It's going to be a really good experience. I love life. Thank you for watching. Maybe my next video could just be funny. Sorry if this wasn't what you wanted.